There is so much misinformation and confusion about what models to use on platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and elsewhere. It's not your fault. For example, my girlfriend uses ChatGPT a lot. And when I see her asking certain questions to certain models, it literally pains me because I know that she's not going to get the output and the answer that she needs. And so the whole goal of this video is, regardless of if you use AI for work, for searching the internet, for just understanding yourself deeper, asking random questions, after this video, you're going to understand what models you can use and when you should use them. Now, like I said, it's really not your fault because the way that these businesses have named these models, for being some of the smartest people in the world, the naming conventions quite literally could not be worse. I mean, it's actually atrocious. So for the example of this video, we're going to use ChatGPT, but you can extrapolate this towards Claude, Gemini, and Grok, and so forth. There's really two types of models. There is your basic LLM, and then there's what's called a reasoning model. We'll get into what that means and when you should use them. But essentially, for most basic questions, almost like a Google search, you always use the most basic model. So in ChatGPT, this is the 4.0 model. You'll see it right here. Yeah, ChatGPT 4.0. And you'll also see there's O3, which is a reasoning model. You don't really need to worry about any of these other models because you would know what they meant if you were an engineer or a coder. Okay, so here's a great way to think about it. Chat models are fast and low stakes. Reasoning models are slower, but they're much better for high stakes queries or complex questions. So for example, you don't want to go to ChatGPT and ask 4.0 about your business plan. That is a question for O3 every day of the week. So let's just run through a couple of examples here. Excuse me. Okay, I want you to play along. I'm going to give you a second to just kind of answer these and think about them yourself so you can actually learn. Which fruit has the most fiber? Which model should this be? Okay, well, remember, we said that for Google-like search queries and just general basic questions, 4.0 is the model that you should go with. It's conversational, it's going to answer it, and I'm going to give you a really, so watch this. So which fruit has the most fiber? It's going to answer it instantaneously. Now, if we were to ask, of course, the one time I try to give an example, it does this. But basically, this is just same thing. You see how quick it is. And it's just asking which one I prefer more. So if we were to ask the reasoning model, which fruit has the most fiber, it's going to literally start thinking. This is not necessary for this question. It's a pretty basic question that it should know the answer to, very simply put. So a better question is, act as a nutritionist, which fruit would be best for someone with diabetes if they still want a little sweet in their diet but cannot consume processed sugars? Okay, so you could ask 4.0 this question, and you're going to see it's going to spit out, something. It's going to spit out a decent answer because this is still a relatively simple enough question. Okay, so it's got this, but here's the thing that you'll see. So great responses. I'm assuming O3 is going to have the same answers, but they're going to be a little bit different, you'll see. So we ask O3 the question. It starts thinking. It starts working through. It's going to kind of do its thing. Like I said, it's a very simple question, so it's very easy for it to answer it, but you'll see that these answers are much more detailed and much more nuanced. And the reason for that is because it thinks more deeply. That's just kind of how it works. So, let's go through another example. Why was Winston Churchill ousted? This is a question for 4.0 because it's basically a simple Google-like question, right? This is not something that you need to reason about. Now, you could say, what are the historical implications of, I'm just making this up, the Weimar Republic? That's the government that ran Germany before Nazi Germany came to power. What are the implications of the Weimar Republic on how Churchill got ousted? I have no idea if those two things are correlated or not, but the point is that's like a deep, complex question that you're going to want to ask so you can get very detailed responses and make sure that it's thinking deeply about. So, okay. A couple things to note about prompting. The way that you structure your prompts is everything, and it really, really makes a huge difference. So, for example, when you're using a reasoning model, this is only relevant for the reasoning models, you want to use delimiters. What that means is separate your task from your content using something like hashtag task, versus hashtag document. So a way that this would work in actual practice and in real life would be, all right, let me just think of an example. I'm doing this off the top of my head. Please analyze my business plan to tell me if it is viable to grow strawberries and distribute them across the United States at under, I'm literally making this up, $1 per pound of expenses. Might be a terrible example. But anyways, the way this would work is this is the task, okay? Now, what if I had a document of research? Please analyze this document that details strawberry grow operations across the United States. And then I would use the delimiter document and I would paste the document information in there. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense to you. Task and document. Because what happens is we assume these things are all powerful, all knowing beings, and in a way they are, but at the same time, it will get confused. The more context you give it, the more confused it gets. So you got to be very careful with that part of things, right? So yeah, that's how delimiters work. I highly recommend using them for reasoning models. Typically, you're not going to use that for 4.0 or just like a basic chat model because you're not going to ask it that complex of questions. So the more complex, the more kind of, the more really format you need to use in your questions. Now, when should you use the internet search? Well, you can make sure that it searches the web by simply clicking these tools and then search the web. But generally, if you're asking a question, in my experience lately, it's been searching the web just by itself. So that one's pretty straightforward. I probably won't get into that too much, but here's the thing. What about ChatGPT Deep Research? Because Deep Research is an unbelievably powerful tool where it will find all, like for instance, my mother has diabetes and we're trying to figure out, we thought this product was giving her side effects, but we couldn't figure it out for the life of us. I use Deep Research to pinpoint what ingredient in the product was actually causing these issues. Okay, and so what I like to do for Deep Research is ask ChatGPT to prompt it. So let's give an example here really quickly. So my mom has diabetes. She wants to know, a holistic way to lower her blood pressure. Okay, so we're gonna ask it to create a prompt for Deep Research. Please create a Deep Research prompt. Now, you should always give it more context than this. This is just very basic. You'd want to give it a lot more context than this so that it actually knows. Here's a comprehensive research back, boom. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna spit out this Deep Research prompt. Now watch what it does. Okay. So what you'll see is sometimes the 4.0 model will start thinking, which is actually really interesting. Okay, great. This is an amazing prompt. I can already tell. You can see the difference in this versus this, okay? This is how you get good results with LLMs is you prompt like a pro. It is so important to prompt like a pro. Okay, great. Now, what about the Canvas feature? Can you make a document of this prompt? Let's see what happens. See, it'll spit out an actual document in what's called the Canvas. I think this feature is so cool because it's almost like a Google Doc, but it's in ChatGPT. And yeah, just look at that. It's beautiful and it really, really works. All right, so with that said, there's two types of models. There's the basic chat models and there's the reasoning models. Now, hopefully you know which models you should use and when. This is applicable for Claude. This is applicable for Grok, and Gemini, and so on and so forth. I hope this video helps. I try to create videos to help people use AI to improve their lives or improve their business or improve something, because that's the goal of it, right? If it was helpful, subscribe, like, comment. I think that's what I'm supposed to say at the end of these videos. Peace.